All right, we're going to go ahead and begin today's webinar. Once again, good morning, good evening, good afternoon. We got people from around the world, looks like, attending today's webinar. So thank you for taking time out of your busy schedules to spend with us. We definitely appreciate it. So today we're going to be talking about DotNetNuke Professional Edition and how that can benefit you. But before we do, we got some housekeeping things that we're just going to get out of the way. So first of all, I just want to make sure everybody on the webinar can hear me. And so on the webinar, you have the control panel, and it has this raise your hand feature. So if you can hear me, please raise your hand. All right, thank you so much. I appreciate you being attentive there. But we got one more here. If you can see that small tree in the middle of your screen, with the eyeglasses, you can see it clearly, so you can see my slides. Please, once again, raise your hands for me. All right, looks like everything's working fine, so we're going to go ahead and move on. I appreciate everybody participating in that. Okay, so first things first, we just want to make sure that we let you know that we definitely love your questions. We want to hear your questions, and we want to answer all of them that we possibly can. So throughout the webinar, if you have any questions whatsoever, please feel free to use this control panel and GoToWebinar to ask any questions that you want. You can go ahead and type them in there, and at the end of the webinar, we're going to go ahead and answer as many of those as we can. If there are any that we can't get to today, we'll go ahead and respond to you directly. But we also have the community exchange that's available for you as well. So if you go to answers.dotnetnuke.com, you can go ahead and ask questions, and people in the community will also answer your questions. So that's a great place. It's a great alternative for the forum, so you can just basically get a question and an answer right away. So feel free to use that. Now we're going to go ahead and move on with the webinar, and so we're going to start talking about DotNetNuke, but more importantly, how DotNetNuke will fit into your world. So if you're not familiar with DotNetNuke, let me just give you some background about why DotNetNuke exists and how it can fit into your organization. So first of all, a little history lesson here. If you look back into the year 2000, the majority of websites out there were very static. They're very kind of brochureware type of sites where there wasn't a whole lot of interaction. Everything was very much read-only. You didn't really stick on websites very long. You just basically said, what is this organization about, and then you left. People with dynamic websites, that was really reserved for those that had large budgets and could program actual websites. But in 2000, it was very, very difficult for you to be able to look forward and know what was going to be important to your business in 10 years. It would have been almost impossible to be able to tell how big social would be, or how important it would be, or mobile in today's world and the websites. So maybe you'd be able to tell e-commerce, maybe, but it would have been very difficult for you to forecast that and then react to it in a way that you could, and be agile to be able to kind of beat your competitors in those areas. Now, with us, with DotNetNuke, that's where we want to come in for you, for your organization, is to make sure that we are looking at what the next big thing is to allow you to be agile, to allow you to adapt to what your customers are demanding or your visitors are demanding on your website. And so that's where we come in. We are going to be there to help you protect and adapt with using your most important business asset, which is your website. So we're going to be there to help you plug in things that you need, whether it's mobile, social, document management, cloud, or whatnot. So that's where we come in. Now, when you think about your organization, everybody today is under pressure. Whether you're talking about the growth of your organization or your industry, the speed at which you need to react to things, what your competition is doing and the speed that they're working at it, cost of things these days, whether we're talking about development or rolling out projects, and all of this is very, very complex, and that doesn't include this explosion of content that we have everywhere. If you think about where content is, it's no longer just under your control. It's everywhere. You have content on various social websites and various forums and communities, and it's there. People are talking about so being part of that conversation and having your website interact with it is something that you need to worry about today. So that's where, once again, that's where we come in. We allow your business to be agile. So, we recognize that you're struggling with how to respond to this very fast and in most cases unpredictable change over time on the web. And so what we like to think is that we're here to help you with that. With DotNetNuke, we have the most adaptive platform to allow you to very quickly and affordably keep your website up to date with the most most important trends in a way that really fits your business. And so just a little bit of background about who .NetNuke is. We are the #1 web content management system on the Microsoft stack. There is nobody that's larger. We know that for many reasons. We're going to go over a couple of those reasons right now. But we have over 1,800 commercial customers at this point, and that's in less than 3 years of having an actual commercial offering. Just last year, we're very proud to have been named to the Inc. 500 list. Overall, in software, we're number 23, which that is something that we're very proud of. And then in the Bay Area, if you think about the Bay Area, San Francisco, this is Silicon Valley, and so there's big names like Facebook, Yahoo, and Google, and so on. And we're number 9 in the on that list as of last year. So that was something that we're incredibly proud of. Now, some more of those highlights. We have over 700,000 known production websites. Those are just the ones we know about, and that's worldwide. And so there's over 700,000 production websites running on .NetNuke today out there on their production. We have a large community. We have over 1 million community members out there that are out there using .NetNuke in various ways, whether they're designing or developing or using or implementing, doing some sort of social marketing or marketing in general. That's a lot of people using the platform worldwide. And then we're the only content management system with a commercial app marketplace, and we have over 10,000 extensions in that marketplace that you can choose from, whether they're designs or actual applications. And so there's a lot of things that you can choose to actually purchase and then install and not have to worry about it. You don't have to build it necessarily. In that commercial marketplace, one of the great things about that is the median price for an extension is only $90. So you can very quickly get up to speed with a very minimal cost with .NetNuke. And so what all these highlights kind of tell you is that you'll never be alone. You'll always have a resource to turn to. You'll always have somebody you can talk to that's using .NetNuke, whether it's in user groups or in the communities or online. So you're going to always have resources, and there's always going to be somebody that's doing what you're doing. Now, to that end, .NetNuke is not a vertical specific application. You see a lot of different names up here. Of course, you would recognize many of them, but the whole point here is that there's no single vertical that .NetNuke fits in. There's financial, there's government, there's e-commerce, there's hospitality, there's higher education, military. Everything is on here. .NetNuke is an incredibly flexible application. So whether you're doing microsites or whether you're doing full-fledged internal applications or your public-facing website or an intranet or extranet, .NetNuke can fit your needs, and it does. Now, kind of going along with the theme of customers, .NetNuke can fit your organization size as well. So whether you're a 5-employee company, and you're just using it for some sort of software-based or software as a service application, or whether you're somebody as large as Time Warner Cable, who has over 47,000 people in their company using .NetNuke for their intranet, .NetNuke can fit your needs. You don't need to have a large number of content editors for you to benefit from the features in .NetNuke. Another thing is we recently did a study through a third party. They conducted a survey of a lot of our customers, and so we got some really interesting results from that. Over 95% of customers said they improved their efficiency. That's incredible. A lot of people said they were able to be more efficient by using .NetNuke in their organization. So they were able to roll out content changes and updates much faster than they ever were before. Another one is customers said, over 90% said they were able to save time and money. So, they were able to get that ROI that they were looking for. So they said it was incredibly valuable in terms of getting them, getting their investment back. And then finally, they were able to roll out their sites much faster. 81% said they were able to deliver faster with the product. And as an example, we have a case study on your website where a implementer who regularly rolls out websites said they're able to, when they use .NetNuke, they're able to roll out websites 600% faster than they were before. So that's some pretty interesting statistics. So kind of summarize all that up, .NetNuke, once again, what we want to do is just be that hub for your most important business asset. We want to make sure that we give you the tools at the right time, in the right places, in the right way to allow you to be able to meet the demands of not only your organization, but also the people visiting your website. So we're going to make sure that we continue to have the best-of-breed tooling for you in the product. But now I'm going to go ahead and tell you kind of how DotNetNuke gets there. So we're going to talk about the solutions it offers to you. And so DotNetNuke has two primary solutions. And the first one being users can very quickly create content with either little or no training. That's incredibly important. DotNetNuke is easy to use. Most people can just pick up the product and just figure things out. In fact, you know, I rolled out a website for my daughter when she was 12, and she was able to have a social website where all her friends came on her, and it was just basically a Facebook type site. And I didn't tell her how to do anything. She just picked it up and ran with it. So it's pretty impressive. You know, developers can very quickly build web applications. So that's the other solution. So not only can users just pick it up and run, developers can also build out solutions out using the product. And the reason that's so important is that you don't need us to be able to customize a product. You do not need to have anybody specialized in DotNetNuke to be able to do that. DotNetNuke is not only a content management system, but a web application framework. So your developers or developers that you contract or whatnot, they can very quickly build web applications because they don't have to worry about all the underlying functionality. DotNetNuke takes care of that for them. So DotNetNuke does things like, you know, having, you know, and managing logins and users and pages and things. All you have to do is to worry about your business logic. So that's one of the main ways that it cuts a lot of time to market for you and your organization. Now, as far as what it is, DotNetNuke is an ASP.NET application, meaning it does sit on the Microsoft stack. So for a production rollout of DotNetNuke for your production site, you will be running on Windows Server either 2003 or 2008. It does require Internet Information Server or IIS. And it supports IS 5.5 and above, but 7.0 is highly recommended. And it uses the .NET stack. So it's on, right now the 3.5 Service Pack 1 is the .NET framework of choice, but you can run on any newer ones like 4.0, for example. Now, DotNetNuke is, once again, an ASP.NET application that sits on top of that entire stack, and it has default support for SQL Server, and that would be Server 2005 or 2008, and it's all editions except for Compact. For production, we would highly suggest that you don't use Express Edition, but you can, and if you wanted to use any other database, you absolutely could, because DotNetNuke does have a data provider that allows you to switch out databases, so you can use any data provider that you would like. Now the architecture, so kind of drilling down into what DotNetNuke is, those two solutions are fed out of the two main features of what DotNetNuke is. And the first is the web content management system. So this is the area where not only your visitors would see, but also people that are managing your content. This is where they're going to be doing their day-to-day duties of managing content, adding pages, deleting pages, and images and files and so on. And then the web application framework is where your designers and your developers would be doing all of their work. So they would be creating these new features and you know, designs that you would be able to use in your organization for your website or your websites. Now we're going to drill down into each of those real quick before we go into our demo. So first is the web content management portion of DotNetNuke. If you're not aware, DotNetNuke is a multi-tenant solution, meaning you can, from a single installation of DotNetNuke, you can host as many different websites as you'd like. And each one of those can have their own content, their own pages, their own users, their own security, and even their own domain names if you'd like. And there's no limit to the number of domain names or the number of sites that you can have. But on that single installation, all these sites can share extensions. So the word extensions in DotNetNuke is basically an all-inclusive word for any type of app that you can install into the platform. So that includes modules, for example. All a module is you know, something that the end user can see. So think of things like a blog or a survey or forums or even something a lot more complicated like a CRM or an ERP. In the middle extensions there are you know, skins, skin objects, and widgets, and those are primarily things for your design. So we call our design skins in .NETNuke, and so you can have any number of skins that you would like as well. And then finally, language packs. And by the way, this is not a fully inclusive list of all the extensions that you could possibly have. But DotNetNuke is a fully localizable solution, meaning you can host your website and accept and face out to your visitors multiple languages. So you can have a multilingual site, not just for your static content, but also for your dynamic content. So it's a fully localized solution. Now, no matter which one of these features we're talking about, and even a lot of the ones that we haven't even mentioned, there are no built-in limits in DotNetNuke. You have no built-in limits. That you will never run out of the number of websites that you can put in there, or the number of domain names, or concurrent content editors, or security roles, or anything. You can create as many of these things as you would like. Now, going into kind of the architecture of so we're going to be a little bit more technical for just a moment. So we have the web application framework. And so this is the underlying framework that allows a web content management system to be so powerful. And this is all built off of a provider model. So those are those blue boxes down at the bottom there. So these are most of the providers that are part of the extension points in .NETNuke. So there's a lot of different type of providers. For example, with authentication. We have default support for things like Active Directory and web forms and Google Google ID and Facebook and Twitter and things like that. But if you wanted to use any other type of authentication, you absolutely can. So if you wanted to use some authentication to connect to a backend system that you have, or some custom application that you've built, you can do those things. But also, providers include things like the HTML editor. DotNetNuke ships with probably the world's best HTML editor, but if you wanted to use another one for any reason, the way the provider model works is you can just switch it out, and every single view that uses that HTML editor will now use that new view. There's no need for you to go to every single view and update it. It just happens for you automatically. The next time the page loads for somebody, they're going to see the new feature because of the power of the provider model. Now, for developers, they can access everything in the provider model, no matter who installed what, because it's wrapped by an API. We have a very comprehensive API that does not only talks to the providers that are underlying, but it also allows you to save time, because there's a lot of features that are built into the API that you won't have to necessarily reinvent the wheel on. So you can take advantage of things like that are built into it, like security and syndication and localization, and you just reuse existing logic and things that have been tested by our development team. And so on top of that, when you're building an extension for .NETNuke, the majority of extensions are nothing more than at least one user control. So when we talk about a module, every time you have a view, you would have a user control. And a user control in .NET is the most, is basically the simplest user interface element you can create. And you can build it in any .NET language that you would wish, so if it's VB, C#, or something else. And then you can include any type of methods or technology that you'd like, whether you're talking about CSS, HTML, jQuery, Knockout, Silverlight, Flash, whatever it is, you can use all of those. Once again, there are no built-in limitations with .NETNuke. We also ship with support for the Telerik RAD control suite. So if you're not familiar with them, they have a fantastic control suite for ASP.NET. And as a customer of .NETNuke, you will get an unlimited number of development licenses for the RAD control suite for ASP.NET to build your .NETNuke solutions. So that's a savings for every developer you have. That's a savings of about $1,000 per developer. Now, I'm going to talk about designs for just a moment. So when we talk about your site, you're going to have your page structure, and every page is going to have names and things. But then what a design is in .NETNuke is something called a skin. So a skin in .NETNuke does nothing more than what you would expect it to do. It kind of templates out the page. So it defines things like the color of the page, the background, the where the header is and how big, and where the logo is, and more importantly, where people can add content. So this is not defined by .NETNuke. You and your designers define where people can add content to your layout, so you can have full control over your branding. And just like with modules, with skins, you can use any type of methodologies that you'd like. You can still use things like jQuery, jQuery UI, Telerik, HTML, XHTML, HTML5, CSS3, anything that you would like in your designs you can absolutely use, and you can continue to stay XHTML compliant for whatever needs that your organization may have. Now, those blue boxes there are basically where modules can sit, and so we call those blue boxes, we call those content panes. And so these panes, these content panes, are where people can add modules when they're logged into the website, if they have appropriate permissions. And so once again, you and your designers define where those areas are. And if we do have any developers or designers on the line, all a content pane is a table cell, a div, or a span tag. Now when we talk about what DotNetNuke is, this is pretty much what DotNetNuke looks like out of the box when you first install it with the default template. But once you get a designer involved, or if you pull something from the store or open source forge, you can get as creative as you'd like. So here's something that was in one of our skinning contests in the past. So you can see you can have something as colorful as this, or you can have something as fun as this if your website dictates that you can do that. But you can also have responsive design if you wish. So you can be able to span your website across different form factors and devices like you see here. So you can have a desktop version of your site and a tablet version and a mobile version. And you can also see what some of our customers have done, people like Coinstar or the City and County of Denver and the University of New Orleans. And also Kingston Technologies, and I love their site. Now we're going to go ahead and jump into the demonstration, and so give me just a moment as I switch screens here, so I want to make sure everything happens okay. Alright, so at this point you should be able to see my demo website, so you should be looking at awesome cycles on the page, and if you can see that, we're going to ask you one more time if you could raise your hands and let me know that you can still see that okay. Excellent, thank you very much. Okay, I didn't put you guys to sleep yet, that's awesome. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and go through what .NETNuke is and go through some of the professional features that can help you in your website projects. So what you're looking at here is .NETNuke. You can see that there are no editing capabilities that can move through the site. We got an About Us page, our services. So this is basically a default template for .NETNuke, and you can see that we even have some community features that you can use for your social version of your site or your social solution. But it was very much read-only. Even on the community area, I couldn't really contribute anything on the site yet. I haven't logged in, and because of the permissions that are currently set, I can't really do anything. Now I'm going to go ahead and log in as the most privileged user in .NETNuke, and that user is known as a host user or a super user. And so when I log in as this user, every single bit of content editing capabilities will be shown to me. So when I log in, you're going to see everything that you can possibly do because this is the most privileged user. As we move through the demo, I'm going to use less and less privileged users to be able to illustrate how .NETNuke works. Now, one of the first things you might notice is every single one of the modules that are on this page, so you can see I have multiple modules, but when I hover over them, they get highlighted for me. So as a business user, you can imagine how intimidating it might be when I first come to a content management solution and I see that maybe I'm been told to edit to these paragraphs right here. But if I've never used it before, I might be really intimidated. Like, if I edit this, do I edit the entire page? Am I editing everything below it too? Am I editing the stuff on the right? What if I mess it up? So what .NETNuke does for you is highlights that area that you can edit. And so it highlights it with that box around it, and also, but only if you can edit it. And also, this Manage button appears. So we have this nice Manage button that we can move around here, and if I have the permissions to edit things, I can go ahead and see the things that are available to me. Now, .NETNuke also takes security very seriously. So one of the things that you'll notice here is there's a lot that I can do with this module, but only if I've been given the permissions to do these things. So there's a lot of things I can do, including editing content, getting into settings for just this module, or deleting it from the page, or moving it around the page even. The other thing that's shown up here is this gray bar at the top of the screen. And as you notice, when I scroll down, that gray bar stays with me. This is what we call the control panel. So this control panel is your central area for content management in .NETNuke. And just like with the modules on the page, you're only going to see things in the control panel that you have permissions to see. So the ability, for example, to look at the website in different ways. So that alleviates the need for you to do things like have multiple browser windows open and things. You can look at the website and preview it without having to log off and log back on or anything like that. There's also a tools menu, so this is a great area where you can get some shortcuts into some common things that you might need to do, like web form support or jumping to different websites if you have multiple websites. And then pages. So this is where we're going to go soon to add a new page to our website. So we not only can add pages here, but we can also update the existing page that we're looking at right now. And then we have a modules menu. The modules menu allows me to add new content capabilities to this page. So whatever modules that there are available to me, I can go ahead and choose them and add them to the page and have new types of content that I can manage. And then we have two administrative type menus. The first one is the host menu, which we're about to go into. And then we also have the admin menu. So these are only available to people that are either an administrator of the website or they're a host user like the current one I'm on. Now I'm going to dive into that one real quick. And you can see there's a lot of things I can do here, whether it's creating new websites, installing or managing extensions on my site, managing the mobile device detection rules and parameters, or down below we have a lot of other things that are only available to our professional or enterprise edition customers. So for example, the web farm support. This is where you would come to manage how .NETNuke functions in your web farm. And so more importantly, do things and manage it in a way to where if you're in a web farm, if user comes in and they end up on server 1 on your web farm and they make another request and they click a link and they come back in and they're on server 14, at that point you need to make sure that your users have the exact same experience as they did before they clicked that next link. And so the web farm support allows you to do that. There's also health monitoring. Health monitoring is a great feature. It acts like an HTTP keep alive service. So what that means to you is it keeps your site up. So your site will always be responsive on the very first page load. But it will also be able to notify you when your site goes down or if your site goes down, because sites do go down. And so basically this feature, it will constantly allow our servers to ping your website, and if we ever find out that it's down, you'll be notified immediately. There's application integrity. This is a great security feature because what that does for you is it actually audits your file system. So basically it looks through all the files and it'll let you know if any of the files have been edited or managed in a way that .NETNuke did not intend. So if anything has been modified, you can take this report. For example, there's one modified file here. If this is something I did not expect, I can now take this to people in my organization and say, hey, who had access to the file system? So it's a great security feature. There's also Search Crawler Admin, so I'm going to dive into this one too. .NETNuke has a comprehensive search engine. It will crawl the URLs that you add here and index all the content in every single one of those pages from that domain. But it will also crawl and index all of the documents that it finds. So you can see that the current site is obviously added here, but I can also add any number of sites I would like. So if I have existing web properties that aren't going to be on this installation of .NETNuke, I can crawl and index those too. And the great thing about that is when somebody comes to this website and they search for content, all of the content that's been crawled by this feature will be in the search results in one place. So it makes it incredibly easy for your end users to be able to find content from your organization. The other thing it does is, you can point it to index documents that exist in a directory. So not all documents will necessarily be linked to. So if you want to point it at a specific folder, you can do that and have it point to that folder and index all of the documents there, and they will show up in the search regardless to whether they show up on a page or not. So this will index all types of documents and all the Microsoft type documents, including PDFs. There's also Security Center, so if anything ever goes wrong in terms of security, and we'll let you know. So you're going to, as a customer, you'll be the first to be notified. We're going to be proactively telling you if there's ever a security issue that you need to be aware of. But you can also just jump right into the Security Center and see if there's anything at all security related, and then if there is, it'll tell you how to be more secure and how to get your platform or your site to a more secure state. The User Switcher is a great tool. It's great for a couple reasons. It's great to allow you to impersonate users, and so basically that's very powerful for a couple reasons. First of all, if Janet Smith, for example, said that she couldn't see a section, and I thought I set up the site right, I can impersonate her and see exactly what she's seeing. So it makes it incredibly fast and easy for me to troubleshoot the site. But it's also a great support tool. If for example, I needed to see, I am creating a new section of the site and I want to see how it's set up and see how other users are going to look at it, I don't have to create test accounts to do that. I can just go ahead and impersonate that user in a single click and just see if I set up things properly. So that makes it incredibly fast and easy for you to manage your site. Now the center row here is all about you as a customer, things that you would take for granted, like our world-class technical support. You get unlimited technical support through online ticket system. You can manage your license and you can get information through the knowledge base and software and documentation areas. Now, also in Professional Edition is site groups. So if you are going to have a multi-website environment, you can use site groups to have a single sign-on across those DotNetNuke websites. So as an example, if you had 50 websites and 10 of them are run by the same people, you might want to group them together here in the site groups feature, so that way people can log in once and not have to worry about logging in again across the other sites. And then the remaining sites, they would continue to function as they normally would. There's also a SharePoint connector. The SharePoint connector is something that's specific to Enterprise Edition, so that allows you to connect your SharePoint site to your DotNetNuke site to publish documents in a synchronization method. So there's a lot more information. There's a full-fledged webinar on the SharePoint connector that you can find on our webinars page, so I'm not going to spend too much time on that. Now in the admin menu, I'm going to just talk about a couple things here, and then we're going to actually do some fun stuff like editing content. So in our admin menu for our Professional Edition customers, we have things like Google Analytics Pro. So coming in here, we not only can add Google Analytics very quickly, very fast, but you also have advanced segmentation available to you. So that's very powerful, especially if you're trying to track marketing campaigns or email campaigns or anything where you're trying to get deeper insight into segments of your users. So you can segment out reports in Google Analytics based on things like a landing page. So like if you have some special convention landing page and you're sending people to a specific page and you want to see exactly what those people are doing when they come to your site afterwards, you can set up Google Analytics Pro to be able to segment out those users. And you can also do it by security roles as an example. So if you want to see, if you have a customer security role and you want to be able to track and manage their activity differently than everybody else on your site, you can do that. And then there's also site redirection and device preview management. We're going to go over that towards the end of the webinar, so I'm going to save that for later. That has everything to do with our mobile solution. So instead of doing that, though, I'm going to go ahead and jump back out to the regular portion of our website, and we're going to start creating some content. And so the first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to add a new page to the site. Now, I don't have to know anything technical at all to add a new page. I just come to the Pages menu, if I have permissions to do so, and I give it a name. And after this, I click Add Page. That's literally all I have to do to create a new web page in DotNetNuke. And so right here, a lot of things that are very technical have been done for me without having to know anything at all about how to do these things. So for example, if I'm using breadcrumbs on my website, the breadcrumbs are automatically updated. The menu system is automatically updated. I already have it there. I don't have to do anything special. And then the URL is search engine and human friendly URL. So you can have all those things. And because I left it at the default template, what it also did was added an HTML module to the page for me. And that's very important because what that does for you is it saves you time. You can create your own page templates even. So if I come up here, I can export a page and create my own page templates. And just like everything else, there's no limits to the numbers of templates that you can create. And so templates save you time because it adds common functionality to the page for you without you having to worry about doing it manually. So in this case, it added an HTML module for me because, quite frankly, 9 times out of 10 or more, you're going to be doing that anyway. Now this module here, though, it doesn't know what title you want to give it, so it says enter title here as a kind of a hint. And so that's easy to change. I just go to the settings for the module, and in the settings I can go ahead and change the title. So I'm just going to highlight it and give it the same name as the page just to keep it simple. The next thing I'm going to do is in permissions, I'm going to go ahead and add a couple people to be able to edit content here. So this is your first look into granular permissions in DotNetNuke. So this allows you to do things like allow a couple people to edit content or a couple groups of people to edit content without allowing them to do anything that might be considered a lot more dangerous. For example, deleting the module from the page. You know, that's something you may not want to give people the capability to do. So what I've done here, just a summary, I've went ahead and allowed people to edit content, and I've given it a different name. And so now I'm going to go ahead and update to save those changes. And you can see that the location's name has automatically changed for me. Now I'm going to go ahead and also edit the content here. So I use that Manage menu to do that. And in here I'm going to go ahead and take out the existing content, and I'm going to use another feature in this WYSIWYG editor. Now this WYSIWYG editor is great because, like I said before, it's probably the world's most popular one out there. It has everything that you're looking for. It has spell check. It has robust table support. It has the ability for you to include your own classes. It has the ability for you to insert various types of media, including images and videos and so on. Of course, you can manage your links. And then it also has format strippers. So by default, it will automatically strip word formatting out of content for you. It'll go ahead and strip out all the extra stuff. So if you ever dealt with that, rest easy. It's in there and it's automatic. You don't have to enable anything. And it also allows you to selectively strip out formatting from different content you might have if you're copying and pasting it from other sources. Now I'm going to go ahead and use another feature in here that I like. It's called the Template Manager. So there's templates throughout .NET and all they do is kind of save an instance of kind of content structure and sometimes content itself. So I'm going to use a Template Manager to insert something that would otherwise take a while for us to kind of build. And so I'm going to choose the Locations template, and I'm just going to insert it. So this is nothing more than 3 paragraphs of text, some links, and an image. And so I just insert that. You can see it looks pretty nice here. And now I'm going to go ahead and come down here and save the content. So now we have content on the page. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and add another module to the page. And this one I'm going to call Contact Us. And I'm just going to continue to use HTML Pro for now, but if we wanted to, we can see that there's a ton of modules available for you out of the box. So in a lot of cases, you won't have to go to our store, for example. Now, before I add it to the page, I do have the choice of where I want to put it on the page. So we can see here right now it says Content Pane. That's the default place for any design. But I can go ahead and choose any other design, sections on the page, so these content panes, if you remember. So I'm going to choose the right pane, but before I do want to highlight that these are not areas that are defined by .NET Once again, I want to reiterate that these are areas that are defined by your designers, and they define where they are, how big they are, how many of them they are, and what their names are. So I'm going to go ahead and choose the right pane, and so that's just going to put on the right side of the page and add it. So there we go. Now, this content pane happens to be above this module, and we can go ahead and see that if we go to layout mode. We can see where the areas are that our designer gave us to add content. So it makes it very easy to see that, but it also makes it very easy if I decide I want to move things around, I can go ahead and do that very quickly that way. Now I'm going to go ahead and edit the Contact Us area just like I did with the locations, but I'm going to just do it a little faster this time. So I'm going to go ahead and choose the Contact Us template. And you can see that this is just a simple thing. I have a link to a map and some pretend contact information, and of course some links to our social networks. So I'm going to go ahead and add that, and so now we have a page that's come together. We have some images, some links, some graphics. So now at this point I want to make this available to people. If you haven't noticed, I have these blue boxes here that says visible by administrators only. Now when I added this page, I added it as a top level menu item. You can see it right here. Because you can see it immediately, it's called a top-level menu item. And .NET had no idea what permissions to assign it. So what I'm going to do here is assign it permissions. But if I had added it underneath About Us, it would have inherited permissions instead. So let's go ahead and change the permissions to make this page more accessible to people. And you can see here in .NET it's incredibly easy to manage metadata for any page. But I'm going to go ahead to another granular permissions grid. So you can see I have it at the page level, to assign all users, so that's everybody that's logged in or not, to the ability to view the page. So I can get very specific on what I can allow people to do. And then update it. So now those blue boxes are gone, and now everybody in the world, if they can get to this website, they now can also see this page. Now before next thing I'm going to go into is content workflow. So I'm going to go into the settings for this one module here. And so this is where we allow people to edit content. And I'm going to go ahead and add a workflow. You can see that I have 3 built in, but I'm going to add one for ourselves. And so I'm going to click Manage Workflows to do that, and then just add new workflow. And let's give it a name. I'm going to call this Marketing Approval, because marketing must approve all content changes before visitors can see them. There we go. So I have a nice description there. Go ahead and click Update, and now I already have a workflow, but it's an indirect publish workflow, meaning I can just save a draft and then it's published whenever it's not a draft anymore. So I'm going to add a state of review. I'm going to call this state of review Marketing Review, and now I can choose any people that I want to be able to be part of this approval process. So I'm going to choose the marketing management team, and so they're going to be part of the approval process. If I want them to be notified via email, I can go ahead and notify them now or check a checkbox, but I'm going to go ahead and just leave it alone. Maybe I don't want them to be notified via email, and just go ahead and update it. Now I can continue to do that as many times as I'd like to create as many different states of review as I want. So if I wanted 5 states of review, and including like executive and legal and HR and all that stuff, I can do that, and I can build a hierarchy and change the order in which people approve content. But just to keep things simple for today, I'm just going to leave it the way it is, and I'm going to go ahead and cancel to move back so I can now choose the workflow I've created. Now you can see that I have a nice preview here, so now I've created a workflow and it looks like the approval that I want. I'm going to go ahead and update to save it, and so now we can use it. And now I'm going to go ahead and log out. Now I'm logging out so I can log in as a different user. I'm going to log in as just an average business user. It's a member of the marketing department. He's not in management though, and this is somebody named Ross Baker. So Ross Baker here, if you click through, we can see that this is a completely different profile. So Ross Baker is, he's in the site here. Now, when we come to this other page, though, the locations page, you can see that my experience is completely different. The Contact Us module, when I hover over it, it doesn't highlight it. I don't get a Manage button, but I do over Locations, because that's where you saw me apply permissions. And so when I hover over here, the Manage menu, I also have a very limited selection of things that I can do. I can basically only edit content. And if I go to other areas in the site, I don't have any content editing capabilities whatsoever because you haven't seen me assign those permissions yet. So by default, nobody can do anything until you tell them that they're allowed to. Now I'm going to go ahead and Ross Baker, he's been told that he needs to edit the content here. So I'm going to click Edit Content, and so Ross Baker is going to come in here. He's going to do some interesting things here. But the first thing to note is that this is version 1, so there is versioning. It's telling you which workflow is in use, and that is currently published. So what we're looking at has been published. So now we can go ahead and update this. So I'm going to do a couple things for, maybe I want to highlight some text, so I can go ahead and highlight it because we want that to stand out. We're really looking for franchise opportunities. And then maybe Ross needs to add an image down here to kind of dress this up. So we're going to go ahead and center align it. And so now the image manager, we can go in here and choose an image. So let's see here. There's various images here. I'm going to go ahead and choose the San Francisco to Google ride picture. So I'm going to go ahead and type in a nice description here. And then, so when I select an image, I can go ahead and give any metadata information that I want to it. I can align it. I can, change the margins for it and all of those things. But if I had the ability to upload, I'd be able to also upload my own. But Ross Baker hasn't been given the ability to upload any information yet. And furthermore, if he had the ability to save files in one of the folders, he'd be able to also use the image editor. So you can go ahead and change image sizes and crop images and things like that from right here within the product without having to know anything technical or being a designer or anything like that. So I went ahead and I chose an image. I gave it some alt text, and I'm going to go ahead and insert it. So there we go. We have a nice little image there. And so now we can go ahead and save this content. But before I do, right down here, we have some additional options that weren't available to us before. I can go ahead and lock this content if I wanted to maybe come back to it because maybe it's still in a draft state, I'm not done, I need to go to a meeting or something. Or I can choose to publish this, which will kick it into workflow when I save this. So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to go ahead and choose Save. And now I'm going to give it some feedback. So I'm going to say added the new image. And then go ahead and add the comment. So throughout the entire workflow process, you have the ability to give feedback. And right now, it's showing us what our changes are. These changes are only visible to me because I am a person that can edit the content here. So it gives me a nice preview of it because DotNetNuke is all about context. This allows me to preview the content without having to worry about other people seeing it. So because it's not yet approved by workflow, if I go to view mode, I can change that, and everything that is pending is not shown. So only the approved changes will be shown to people. If I log out, you can further see that. Now I'm going to log back in as his supervisor, Janet Smith. Janet Smith is the boss of Ross, the person that we were just talking about, or that we're logged in as. And she can also see these pending changes because she has edit content permissions. She could immediately choose to reject or approve the content if she wanted. She can also see all of the pending content that she has available for her to approve under my work. So she doesn't necessarily need to be in the she doesn't necessarily need to have an email sent to her. So I'm going to go ahead and just approve it though. Now if I approve content, it'll go ahead and move it to the next step in workflow all the way up until the point that it's published. If I reject it, it'll do the opposite, so it'll move it backwards all the way up until the point it gets back to the original author. So I'm going to just go ahead and approve it and say it looks great. So Janet Smith, she's happy with that change and she approves it, and now if we go to view mode, we can see that those changes are in fact live. Oops, I didn't mean to do that just yet. All right, so I'm going to move back to edit view. Now the last thing I want to do today is I want to show you some of the mobile features. So with when you talk about a mobile website or a mobile-friendly version of your website, it's important to note that there's a lot of different ways that you can roll out your website. I briefly mentioned responsive design, and so there's a lot of things that you want to think about. We have some webinars coming up in the future about mobile strategies, so I want you to keep your eyes out for those webinars. They're coming up very soon. But what we're going to do is create a separate mobile site instead of the responsive rendering as an example. But .NetNuke supports every way that you want to roll out your mobile presence. Now in order to create a new website, I logged in as a super user again, and so I'm going to go back into the host menu because this is the only way I can add new sites to my installation. So I'm going to go to Site Management. And under Site Management, you can see that I only currently have one website that is on this installation. So I'm going to go ahead and add a new site. And in here, we have the ability to add a site that either has its own domain name or a subdomain, or we can choose child, which allows us to have a subdirectory approach to our website. So instead of having its own domain name, it's going to have a subdirectory like you see here with /mobile. I'm going to give it a nice title too. I'm going to say Awesome Cycles Website. Oh, forgot mobile website. And down here below, we can see that it defaults to the default website template. So you can see it's default website English, but we have a lot of different templates you can choose from. And so this is just the first insight into being able to support multiple languages. So every template that we ship with has a version in the other one of the other 5 languages that we support out of the box. But of course, there are no limits to the number of languages that we support. If you have other languages that are not shown here, we have community language packs that allows you to support things like Chinese or any other language that you can think of. But I'm going to choose a mobile template here. So this is mobile website, the English version. I'm going to choose that, and now I can create the site. So it's doing a lot of things in the background for me. I don't have to know anything technical to be able to create this new website, but in the background it's doing all kinds of things to the database and the file system, and it's just going to automatically take us to our mobile version of our website. Now the great thing about this is you can see that this is a mobile template. This is giving you best practice examples of quite a few things. And first and foremost, one of those things is one of those things is responsive rendering. So you have this world-class example, or this best practice example of how to roll out your website using responsive rendering. So it's using things like HTML5 and CSS3 media queries in the background, and to show you how, like right now, I'm basically in either a desktop or a tablet view, but if I came in a smaller form factor, you can see how everything resizes for your content. It's more optimized. The menu is a touch-friendly menu, so this is, once again, a best practice example for you to figure out how you want to roll out your mobile version of your site. And then if you have if it comes to a larger form factor, you can see how the page will react to it. So once again, we're in a tablet type of experience here, and you can see that the child pages for About Us are above the menu currently. But using this best practices, we can illustrate that if you go to a smaller form factor, once again, the menu system still works in touch friendly, but it's using the best practices of putting the links below of the child pages. So you can already see that with people that have been doing this for years, people like Amazon, ESPN, CNN. So you have the best practice example here available to you as a Professional Edition customer. Now the other cool thing about this is what we can do is, let me go back to the home page here, is that we also have a previewer. So this previewer allows you to save a ton of time by coming into the preview and seeing what your website will look like in these various other devices. So basically what it will do is pretend like it's another device. If you're more technical, you might use the word spoof. But right now we're looking at it as a BlackBerry Bold, but if we wanted to look at it as like an iPhone, for example, we can go ahead and do that. So we can go to landscape mode, and we can still interact with the site. but we don't have to own all these different devices to see how our websites will react on these different platforms. We have the troubleshooting tool right here, and if we wanted to add any other devices in here to test, we can do that. Now I'm going to go back to our main version of our website, because it's one thing to have our mobile site, but it's a whole nother thing to be able to get people to it. So under the admin menu, we have the site redirection management. And so I'm going to go ahead and go into there because we want to be able to redirect people from our main or our desktop website to our mobile website, if they land on there with a mobile device. I have two options here when I come to this page. I have the ability to create a mobile website redirection, which is just a global redirect. But I'm going to show you the more fun way. So we have a lot more options if we go to the advanced options. And so I'm choosing that, and now I'm going to go ahead and click Create. Now under Create, this is where I can create the first rule. So you can create as many rules as you want to target either capabilities or specific devices or whatnot. So the first rule I'm going to create is called iPhone. That's one of the more popular devices, obviously. And now I can choose where I want to redirect from and where I want to redirect to. And so you have full reign to be able to choose, like if I want to come from page to page or site to site or site to URL, you can do these things. Now to keep things simple for today's demo, I'm just going to go from site to site. And you can see my mobile site's already selected here. And instead of choosing just mobile phones or just tablets or both, I'm going to go ahead and create a rule. So I'm going to go ahead and say, you know what, I'm going to look for a capability. If it's a mobile device and it's true, so if it is mobile, I'm going to add that. So iPhones are mobile devices, and I'm going to choose platform name, and I can choose iOS because that's what iPhones are. And so now I've created a rule. Just a couple clicks, I've created a rule for an iPhone, and now I can save it. And maybe I wanted to create another one for Android, so I'm going to do it one more time. Android mobile will be more specific because Android is not just a phone. And so now I can just, I'm going to do the same thing, but in the real world I probably wouldn't create the same rule to do exactly the same thing. But I just want to illustrate that not only can we create this and is mobile, is true, and go ahead and add it, but you can target any number of capabilities in here. You can see that I can do all kinds of things like flash support and device dimensions and whether it supports JavaScript and so on. But we're going to go ahead and do the same thing that we did before, and this time I'm going to choose Android, and so now I have Android phone rule. So you see I have a nice hierarchy of rules built up. I can continue to do that depending on how complex my mobile website rollout is. And the cool thing about this is, though, maybe 3 months ago when I did this, iPhone is the most popular phone that's coming to my website. You can see it's the first rule. But if I found out today that Android is the most popular phone coming to my website, to be more optimal, I might want to change the order that the rules are in. And so I can do that very quickly, just like you've seen there. So that's kind of an overview of mobile, just really quick. So these are all professional edition features, and we're going to go ahead and jump back into the PowerPoint now, so we can go get to your questions. And give me just a second. All right, so you should be looking at the slide deck now. I'm going to go ahead and move on. So there's a lot of things that we couldn't really get to today. There's only so much you can talk about in an hour. So things like document library, we have a ton of videos on that on our website. The commerce module, once again, we have webinars for that. The folder providers, we have support for UNC, Windows Azure, and Amazon S3. And so there's some other things that we couldn't get to as well. So we have a lot of great features, including high-performance caching, that you can find out more information about on our website. So hopefully what I was able to demonstrate to you today was that .NetNuke is incredibly easy to use. You do not need to be a technical person to use it at all. It's incredibly fast. You saw how fast I was able to build some content, and the speed of the page loads. We have, you can ensure high quality content, whether it's through staging or being able to go through workflow. Low cost, there's a ton of features that you don't have to build. So whether it's things like photo galleries or blogs or whatnot, if we don't have it built into the product, you have a way to put it in there at a very low cost, so you're going to end up having a very high ROI. So there's 3 flavors of .NetNuke. There's Community Edition. It's free and open source. Your technical support is limited to the .NetNuke forums. And then what you were looking at today is, well, you were looking at Enterprise Edition, but basically this is a Professional Edition webinar. We focused on those features. So this is a fully paid or fully commercial solution. Is paid. It's backed by DotNetNuke, so it's fully supported. You're going to have support from us. So you're going to, for anything that you need, you have unlimited technical support through your online ticket system, and includes things like granular permissions, commerce, workflow, and so on. So this is really for anybody. If you consider your website to be mission critical, if it can't go down, or you always need somebody to be able to talk to be able to get your site up or have support, Professional Edition is the way to go. And then, of course, there's Enterprise Edition as well, which includes all the Professional Edition features, and also things like the SharePoint connector, so being able to publish your documents from SharePoint 2007 or 2010 to your Enterprise Edition of DotNetNuke. We also have some services that are available to you. So Elite Support, it's an add-on for support, so you can get unlimited phone-based support if you'd like. It also comes with a quicker SLA response time and a one-time installation upgrade support call. Oh, and something else that's not on there is also you can get the source code for the professional or enterprise bits if you are, depending on the customer you are. There's also developer support services. So this is not just for development, it's for anything that doesn't fall under regular support. So this allows you to have direct one-on-one access to some of our engineers, and the engineer that you talk to depends on the nature of the issue. So you can talk about skinning, you can talk about performance, you can talk about SEO, so whatever it is, we can help you build out a roadmap and help you get in the right direction to do things with .NET And then finally, there's training. It comes in 3 different flavors. There's online webinars, on-site training, and custom training, which could be online or on-site. And we also have unlimited, unlimited on-demand training. So we have a training library that has somewhere around 90 hours of materials for you. So we're going to start going to questions and answers now, but before I do, there's some information here that if you want to talk to us about Professional or Enterprise Edition, you can. We have some, we're on all the major social networks, so you go ahead and find us and talk to us there. We definitely have some great webinars coming up, so make sure you go ahead and go to our webinars page. You can go ahead and sign up for the future webinars that we have. The free online demo, you'll have a fully functional online demo that you can try, so you don't have to install anything, and you'll be able to use all the features that you saw today in that online demo. And then finally, we have our huge conference coming up. So every year we have our major conference in the fall. So DNN World, it's happening in October. Go ahead and take a look. I happen to put a discount code there. So if you want to get a discount off of the registration, go ahead and use that. It's all uppercase on purpose. Hope to see you there. It's a major event. We have a lot of cool things coming up, like different types of contests, like the Site of Year contest, a superhero costume contest, and it's going to be a lot of fun. Now, I'm going to go ahead and start looking at some of these questions now. We're only going to be able to get to a couple. But once again, I'll get to as many as I can via email, or I'm going to get to the rest via email afterwards. So let's see here. So there is a question here. It would take a lot longer to identify exactly what to do with this, but it says, can you explain how .NETNuke can load faster than another website? .NETNuke has a lot of features that allows you to completely customize and fine-tune your website to be as fast as you want it to be. So there's a lot of features from the host level to the admin level to the page level to every single module. You can tweak the performance and how .NETNuke will react. So there's a lot of things that come into play when you talk about performance with .NETNuke or other systems. So part of what I mentioned is configuration, and especially when you're talking about web farm support or the different types of caching options that come with Professional Edition. But then you also want to think of things like how many modules do you have on a page? What do they do? Do they need to be cached? What does your design do? And can I offload some of the design elements to maybe a CDN, for example? So there's a lot of ways you can get your .NETNuke sites incredibly fast. It just depends on a lot of factors. And so the exact methods that you use will not be the same thing as somebody else uses, because every .NETNuke site's different. But all those features are available to you to get exactly the speed that you're looking for. So I think I addressed this kind of briefly a couple times. Does .NETNuke support multiple languages? It absolutely does. There's English and 5 other top level languages is what you call them that are supported: French, German, Dutch, Italian, and Spanish. So those are supported by us, and then there's something like 72 or 78 other localization packs for other languages that are in our community that you can freely download. So there's a question here about, so I'm going to get to two more questions here. The first one's about how can DotNetNuke seamlessly integrate with a website that's custom written. So one of the things about DotNetNuke is an open platform. So it's an open API, and it also does not get in the way of you doing anything else that's outside of DotNetNuke. In fact, we want you to integrate with anything else. So can you integrate with a custom written application? You absolutely can. It doesn't matter if the other application is custom written or if it's some some well-known application like a popular CRM or something. You can integrate with anything out there. DotNetNuke does nothing to get in your way of that. The only thing that you need to worry about the other application is how are you going to integrate with it? What are its integration points? Because in .NET you can do it from web services, you can do it from XML, you can do it from database, you can do it through authentication. Maybe a single sign-on that is your level of integration, but you can do all of those with .NET. So it's basically a matter of what does your custom application offer to you to allow you to integrate it with .NET. And sometimes that's as easy as just talking to the other application's database and creating a module that just displays the information, or maybe you use an existing module that will do it. So there's all kinds of data display or data visualization modules in the marketplace that allow you to do that as well. So the last question I'm going to get to, and I apologize for not getting to more questions, but the last question I'm going to get to is how compliant is .NET with respect to Section 508? Does it include accessibility tools? So the accessibility, .NET out of the box is fully accessible for all of your website visitors. So you have no problems with that whatsoever. I mean, we have a lot of customers in the government that use .NET, and in the U.S. government, that's absolute requirement. A great example of that is the State Bar of California. That was their #1 requirement before anything else, is to make sure they were Section 508 compliant. Now, I've got a little bit over our time, so I'm not going to go ahead and answer more questions, but once again, I will get to the rest of your questions via email, and so look forward to that. And also, this was a recorded webinar, so you will be able to, you'll get a link to the recording within the next 24 or 48 hours. So we'll look forward to that as well. Once again, I'd like to see you at DNN World. It's going to be a fantastic event. Love to meet all of you. So hopefully I'll see you there, and enjoy the rest of your days or evenings.